Hey y'all, we are back for the next part of our simple 6-pack class. Now we're going to work on our Princess Elena page. Do you see how cute this one is? Actually, I think they go like this. Cute, 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 and room for lots and lots of photos. I'm going to show you the quick and easy little tips that I did on this one, but this page is going to end up looking different for each and every one of you out there because the number of photos you have and the number or the sizes of photos you have, or if they're horizontal or vertical, that's all going to vary. It's going to vary with each of you. It's going to vary just with yourself every time you want to do a layout like this. Okay? But pages like this are so versatile. And I like to use pages like this to sometimes get my creative mojo going and just play with lots of little pieces and show how they could go together. I want you to keep in mind though that you could end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14, oops, I didn't even count one here, 15. 15 pictures, y'all. You could end up with a layout with space for 15 photos. Or you could end up with 4 or 5 or 6, okay? Because look, you could just center one photo over 4 mats like that and then just rearrange, you know, your embellishing pieces to make it work that way. So you could do 1, 2 pictures there, 1, 2, 3, 4 pictures on top like that and embellish around it. Over here, you might not use those little mats there. That could just be one photo. This could be one 4x6 here. You could use a 4x6 here, use that ring to decorate and tuck this mat behind the edge of a 4x6 photo here, okay? So let it go with however your pictures come together. But the first thing you want to do is take about 10 minutes to cut up your pieces and lay out your background. Then your photos will go down and then all of these little embellishing pieces, okay? Let me show you how easy it is in this kit. If you purchased our class supply kit, you're going to have these supplies already. Online, you can print these PDFs or they came printed for you in your kit if you purchased it. All right, so we've got our diagram there. So let's move off all of the embellishments. We're going to set those to the side. We also don't need to cut our 2 background sheets, all right? So what do we have here? We have a half sheet, and the diagram for it is right here. And then we have 1 sheet of quadrant paper, and the diagram for it is at the top, okay? So let's start with a quadrant sheet. As always, I flip it over to the solid side. Our diagrams are set up that way for you. Pink, light aqua, dark aqua, black. Pink, light aqua, dark aqua, black, okay? So I know that I'm doing it correctly. Now, unlike that first page we did where we had to set this white strip, we're cutting this up to be mats, so we don't need to save that white strip. So first thing is get that off of there. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my sheet apart into the 6 quadrant piece, or the 4 6x6 quadrants, y'all, okay, to get these colors separate. And you can see in our diagram that there's a gap there. That's what tells you, okay, let me cut that apart. So there's 2. Here's the other 2. All right, so now let's look at each piece. We're gonna start with pink. We have an arrow here that tells you where your first cut should be. So I need a piece 3.5 by 3.5. So either way I measure that, y'all, that's easy, it's 3.5, right? So cut that at 3.5. So now you should be able to see this piece is 2.5 wide, this piece is 3.5 wide. So I need to cut this one and cut this one. 3.5 leaves me a 2.5 piece at the end. All right, so 2.5. Do you see these 2 pieces? That's what you got here. Now, this one is already 2.5, so I'm gonna turn it and cut it in half at 3. All right, so that's these 2 pieces. Y'all, when you're cutting at home, if you see a little imperfection like this, see that aqua strip that's on there? I don't worry about it yet because I'm one that likes to ink the edges of things. So I just leave those pieces. By the time I would go back and put a little black ink on there, you won't even see it. Otherwise, just take your scissors if you don't ink things and just snip that off. You can do it with your paper trimmer, but that was a whole lot faster just with scissors. All right, so let's go on. Light aqua looks exactly the same. So y'all can do it. 3.5. So there's those two pieces. This one gets cut at 3. There's those two pieces. All right, dark aqua, super easy. It's all 3 by 3. So you take and cut it in half, and in half, and then this piece in half, and you're left with all those 3 by 3 squares. And that just leaves your black piece. The first one is 3.5 again. Y'all get that we're using a lot of 3.5 pieces this time. So let's get this one at 3.5. And that is because of that grid we're doing. So here we're all done. This one shows a little notch cut out, okay? To make my notches even, I kind of pinch it together and do that. When you pinch it together, if you move your scissors up a little bit, that'll give you an arrow that comes out, depending on if you need a regular piece or an arrow piece, okay? Wasn't that easy though? One piece of quadrant paper cut up and ready to go. Now we just have the diagram for the half sheet. We've got a line here that says first cut. I need a piece 2.5 by 12. So if you measure this sucker at 2.5, here we go. We need a notch out of the end. Snip it off. Easy peasy. All right, this guy, 3.5. Hello, look how many 3.5 by 3.5s. We're having them all over the place. All right, the end piece that's falling off after you get 3 pieces at 3.5 is 1.5 inches. For me, it is easier to take my total of 12 and subtract 3.5 from it. Okay, so 3.5 from 12 is 9.5. Did y'all get what I'm doing? Let me check my math. No, it's 8.5. Ha. 12 minus 3.5 is 8.5. See, I have to take time to do it myself anyway. But I do that because it's easier for me for the size I want to fall off. So I measured at 8.5, a piece came off at 3.5. 8.5 minus 3.5, that one's a little easier, y'all. That one's 5. And then my last piece, I'll measure at 3.5. And that little piece comes off. I hope that made sense to you. For me, it's easier just to keep pulling that paper along instead of having to lift this, slide it under, lift it, slide it under. I would rather lift it up and just pull it over. It's a whole lot faster. And the main reason is if you keep that bigger piece up on your trimmer, it's easier to get a straight cut. If you are continuously bringing it from this side to measure something little bitty and have the big piece over here, it has a tendency to shift on you. So whenever possible, keep your biggest piece up on the trimmer. All right, couple of minutes. I talked a whole lot longer than that actually takes to cut up 112 by 12 and a half sheet. But you see how easy that was? If you move that out of the way and lay your background out now, for a page like this, the rest of the pieces in your kit are cut for you. We have cut all of these pieces that are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. The reason they're not 4 by 4 is then you wouldn't see any of the black showing through. And I kind of like the look of it. Does that make sense? So once you lay all these out, now you see all those 3.5 by 3.5 pieces you cut. Do you see where they go? They fit perfectly matted on top of that. I love the look of all of those layers. All right, so you would put all these down and then play with the pieces that you have just cut. Let's talk about the other embellishing pieces in your kit. You've got a couple of die cut flowers. I'm gonna lay these like this now, okay? You've got a couple of die cut flowers. You can add more to these if you want. Chipboard ones, we included those in your kit as well, okay? Paint these with black acrylic paint or even black ink. Then we've got our little quotes on top. Between any of these layers, if you're really a girly girl, get some Prima flowers, get some other big flowers that you already have with big poofy petals and stuff, and layer these up even more. But if you're like me and a little flower goes a long way, a die cut, a piece of chipboard, and a quote on top. It's pretty much all you need. Tag and title sheet gave me these 2 titles, okay? And these are the pieces we're working with here. Okay, so I picked out a couple of titles from there. All of these little quotes that you see, this piece and this piece, all right, always believe right here. I cut the end off and cut a notch out to give it this look. These little hearts, look, I pulled them from the title up here, okay, to make a cute embellishment out of that, even though I didn't need the rest of that title, all right? Have the courage to follow your dreams. I cut a notch out, okay? So cut these up and manipulate the shape like you want them to be. Fairy tale, I just kept as it was right there. You've got a whole lot more quotes down here that you can use and embellish this up after you get your photos on, okay? Quote it fast. We went over it with the citrus one. Pop these out with your punches and use the ones you want to use on here. 1 inch or 1 1/4, 2-inch punch. That's how you pop them out. I also included one of our Color It Fast cards. Coloring has been the rage the last couple of years, and I just love mixing it into my scrapbooking. So I just took this one title from the Faith one, and that's this title here. I added just color on the word Faith, pink in the center circle, and 1 aqua ring. Now, you could do that completely colored in. You could also take just 1 color, like 1 ink pad or 1 fat marker, and color the whole thing to give it just a different background than white. This black ink of ours on here, it will not run. So if it gets wet, you can smear whatever you want on there and that ink's not gonna go anywhere. So if you want 1 color, just color all the way over it. If you wanna add some splashes of color, do that first and then color your solids around it. Or do it like me and just add 1 little pop of color somewhere. You're welcome to mix these other pieces in here or use them on cards or on another layout somewhere. You're gonna have lots of good leftovers from here. All right, the last thing that goes with this page are our rings. And in the next layout, we're actually going to use these rings for decoration in the background, like I did right here. We're gonna use them to crop round photos, like I'm showing here, and we're gonna use them to hold vellum quotes. So in the next segment, we'll talk more about these rings, and then you'll definitely know how to use them on a page like this. I hope, though, that by the time you get through working with this page, that you're like me and go, oh, now I get what she was talking about. I can have fun playing with all of these pieces on a page like this when I need a creative fix, but then when I go back and grab my pictures, it can still work. If I have lots of little ones, here's an idea of how to place them. If I have just a couple of big ones, need something big right there, can totally do it. So when you're building this at home, get all your stuff done, painting your chipboard, coloring in your words, and cutting up the pieces that you want to use. But don't glue every little piece in place until your photos are on there, okay? All right, one last little tip that I wanted to show you. This centerpiece that comes out of a pack of our rings, okay, this piece, y'all, it's not by accident that this is just a little bit bigger than the 2-inch quotes that come out of here. All of these die cuts that we sell you, these are dies I have designed, okay? So I make sure they size easy. So look at that. That mats that for you. Do you see that white ring around there? Use every little piece of stuff like that. I promise it fits in the puzzle of Keller's Creations pre-cut pieces for a reason, to make it easy for you. I hope this layout makes sense. I hope you like it as much as I do. I'm going to go over the next page in the next segment, and then I'm partially through working on a page just like this with actual photos on it to show you how a couple of adjustments with any size picture can make this work.